I call to order the June 11th meeting of the Montgomery County Planning Commission. And Mr. Linkus, if you'll perform a roll call.
Mr. Kroll. Here. Mr. Miller. Here. Ms. Sharp Robinson.
Here.
Ms. Simpkins. Here. Mr. Waltz.
Here.
Mr. Workman.
Here.
Mr. Linkus is here. Vice Chair Foster.
Here.
Chair Rice.
Here. Let's see, you have before you the agenda. We're looking for approval.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. And then the consent agenda consists of the minutes from March 19th, April 9th, and May 14th. We're looking for approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, do we need to divide the question? Because several of us are going to have to abstain from one or the other.
So I have been told in the past that you do not have to abstain even if you were not at the meeting, especially now that our meetings are televised. But if that is your purview and you would like to do that, you can.
So moved approval of all three.
So we have a motion and second for approval of the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed likewise. And then we will move into public hearing. It's a request by Black Diamond Resources, LLC. The agent is Foresight Design Services for a special use permit to allow a clean earth fill area exceeding 15,000 cubic yards and a contractor storage yard. And I understand that we would, if we take any action, it will be two separate.
That is correct.
Two separate SUPs.
That's correct.
Yes, Ms. Wright, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Before you, we have our vicinity maps. On the left, it shows the star is the location of the site, which is kind of central to the county and located right outside the town of Christiansburg jurisdictional lines. And on the right is a zoomed in portrait of that showing the location and the town lines is in blue. And you can see 460 there, as well as 81 interchanges. Excuse me. Here's an aerial photography of the site outlined in yellow. As you can see, through here is the railroad. Here is 460, and then here is the town of Christiansburg jurisdictional line. Here we have the Montgomery County zoning map, which shows everything in green is agricultural and the yellow is residential R3. And then we have a town of Christiansburg zoning map, and the blue is shown as residential multifamily. The orange is industrial, and then those brown areas are general business. Black Diamond Resources has requested two different special use permits, one for a rubble landfill to allow disposal of approximately 2 million cubic yards of inert debris, and a contractor storage yard. Tonight we will go over the rubble landfill first, have a public hearing, and then we'll move on into the contractor storage yard request. The 65.727 acre property is located approximately a half a mile north of Roanoke Street and is adjacent to Route 460, Norfolk Southern Railroad, and the town of Christiansburg jurisdictional line. The site was used by a previous owner for mass fill grading activities for agricultural operations, and the grading plan was approved in November of 2017. In April of 2023, the new owner, Black Diamond Resources, purchased the property. The proposed site is an effort to support the owner's contracting business needs, and it will be open to other contractors by appointment only. The proposed hours of operation are 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and the project is planned in two phases. Phase 1 is 6.71 acres of fill, and Phase 2 is 36.40 acres of fill. There is a declared 19.63 acres of open space. that cannot be disturbed. We have the definition of rubble landfill, which we're all familiar with, and the definition of inert waste, which is the only type of waste that's allowed in the landfill. This is the proposed site plan. In green is the 19+ acres of open space. The light blue area on the left is the proposed phase 1 of the project. The yellow area is the proposed phase 2 of the project. And in the middle there, you can see the detention pond. And this area right here that's kind of a darker yellow is what is existing fill. We took some photos at the site. On the left is the terminus of Village Lane and the access to the existing fill site, phase 2. And on the right, you can see the access road, and a gated entryway is located where my mouse is that will grant access to the fill site and phase 2. On the left is the terminus of Village Lane, and the access to the fill site phase 1 is the lower drive, and the upper drive is access to apartment units that are also located in the county. The lower driveway is also access to the residential dwelling that's located at the bottom of the property. On the left is the Simpson Road cul-de-sac, which is adjacent to the property, and you can see that there's a natural vegetative buffer there. And on the right is the Rainbow Street, at the end of Rainbow Street, and vehicular entry to the site is prevented by the use of concrete barriers. On the left is drone photography of the existing operation you can see in the dirt areas here. And this is also what would be considered phase 2 of the proposed expanded site. On the right, it just shows that same area from a different view. On the left, the drone footage shows the limits of the property boundaries, including the railroad tracks, which are down here, 460, which is over here, and the residential dwelling is located here in this field that you can see, and that uses the shared access. On the right is just another view of that same property. You can see the railroad tracks down in the corner, 460 on the right, and the home here in the field. And then you can see the existing fill site and the detention pond. Here's another drone footage that kind of shows it from a different view. It shows the entire site. You can see 460, the railroad tracks, and over here is the property boundary with an adjacent property owner. While we were at the site doing the drone footage, we noticed a dump truck going down the hill. So I took a picture of the dust that was generated by the truck dumping debris. Dust is a concern, but this dust was after a rainy few weeks that we had. Some of the impacts that we've identified as far as traffic is concerned, since the site is accessed from Village Lane, that is approximately 0.64 miles from Roanoke Street. The site access route utilizes Town of Christiansburg roads. And the Town of Christiansburg noted their concerns for increased dump traffic on the roads, quote, not originally designed to handle the continuous weight and frequency of the construction traffic, end quote. The town has requested that the applicant provide an engineering analysis to show that the existing road pavement sections are designed to handle the additional weight and frequency of traffic. The applicant, in response, is not proposing any such analysis, and you'll see those comments and correspondence at your seats. When on site, staff also observed a dump truck driver picking rocks out of the tire tread of his dump truck as he exited to reduce the danger of flying rocks while driving. The applicant estimates that 0 to 30 dump truck trips per day will take place. The Town of Christiansburg has records of previously investigated issues related to mud and rock on the roads in 2018, 2019, and 2021, but none have been reported since the new owner has taken possession of the property. The proposed site is anticipated to be operational for 40 years. The access route for the trucks passes through business, industrial, and multifamily zoned areas. Since it doesn't exclusively use Town of Christiansburg roads, VDOT has no comments. Environmental impacts identified or evaluated. The site is not located in a FEMA flood hazard area. The stormwater management will use the on-site detention facility. When this fill site is full, it will be closed out, capped, stabilized, and revegetated with grass. Stormwater management will be thoroughly reviewed during the site plan process and would require routine stormwater inspections. The site would also require an annual special use permit compliance inspection through our code enforcement office. All areas that are designated as conserved open space shall remain protected and undisturbed, which was the 19 acres. And again, when on site, we observed minor dust as a result from dump truck driving to site, but in dry conditions, dust generated would be a concern. And it's worth noting that the fill areas can never be used for future construction. The hours are limited to 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Monday through Friday per the application. There is an anticipated employee count of 1 to 2 on site for grading. Again, multifamily residential dwellings are located immediately adjacent to the site, and numerous residential dwellings are located en route into the facility. The town did not indicate any noise complaints that have been received from the existing operation. However, an anticipated increase in noise will be generated from the site and the associated traffic. When on site, staff observed noise from jake braking, tailgates clamoring shut while dumping debris, and then the operation of grading equipment. Lighting for the fill site has not been proposed, and a locked gate prohibits vehicular access to the site after hours. Comprehensive plan goals that have been identified. Urban expansion is what is designated as, which is a preferred location for new residential and non-residential development, which is adjacent to Town of Blacksburg, Christiansburg, or the city of Radford. It's intended to be natural expansion areas for uses occurring within the town boundaries. And it does promote an entrepreneurial economy. The urban expansion future land use summary further explains that coordination between government, municipalities, residents, and land developers is required to accommodate more future development in the urban expansion areas. And here are two goals that are identified that encourage coordination between the town and the county. The proposed use would fill a need for clean fill sites in the county, as it will keep clean fill out of sanitary landfills, and it supports construction activities throughout the county. Additional regulations within the zoning ordinance provide guidance on consideration of these impacts. It is important to mitigate potential impacts on adjacent property owners and on the infrastructure located within the town. The applicant has proposed not to provide the engineering analysis of the street as requested by the Town of Christiansburg. In kind, the town reiterated their response for a core sample on Village Lane to show that the pavement structure can support the additional traffic and truck loading weights proposed. That correspondence has been provided at your seats. The Town of Christiansburg has also asked the Planning Commission to consider a condition requiring that the applicant, quote, ensure that Village Lane pavement structure can accommodate the truck traffic loading. This request was received yesterday, and staff has not had adequate time to consult with the county attorney on the feasibility of if such a condition would be enforceable by county code enforcement. Here are the supplemental regulations that were mentioned before that are guidelines on whether we can accept the application and additional regulations that would be applied to the site. Staff could not make a recommendation. As of the date of this meeting, concerns regarding traffic, the adjoining town neighborhood, and town road status had not been satisfied by the applicant, and therefore staff cannot provide a recommendation. If the Planning Commission recommends approval, however, staff has recommended the following conditions be placed. Use of the site for a rubble landfill cannot extend beyond the boundaries of the area shown on the site concept map prepared by Foresight Design Services dated April 30th, 2025. All boundaries of the approved fill area shall be adequately marked on the property and shall remain in place throughout the time the rubble landfill is in operation. The fill area shall maintain a minimum 75-foot buffer with a 100-foot buffer adjacent to residential areas. This buffer requirement may be accomplished with existing vegetation and/or new plantings, and revegetation of this perimeter is required if the buffer area is disturbed. The access road shall be maintained in passable condition at all times. The dust management plan shall be in place for the access road and must be provided to the county prior to the approval of the site plan. All permits from other agencies such as DEQ, Army Corps of Engineers, etc., must be provided to the county prior to approval of the required site plan. And hours of operation shall not exceed 7 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and the site shall be closed on Saturday and Sunday. All adjoining property owners were notified in accordance with county and state codes. Public hearing signs were placed at the property at all of the Simpson Road, Village Lane, and Rainbow Street. Legal ads were run in the News Messenger. Staff has received one letter of concern, which was included in your packet last week, and additional comments may be received during the public hearing. I am available if you have any questions for me. And John Neal, the engineer, and Mr. Phibbs, the applicant, are both available for questions if you have any for them as well.
Do we have any questions for staff? Yeah.
Or actually a couple questions initially. In the staff report, you mentioned that no buildings are allowed on fill sites. Is that a county requirement? I don't recall seeing that in any of the, where did that, what's the basis for that?
It would require, because of compaction, no building could take place on top of any, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah,
Unstable, possibly unstable ground.
correct. It's not necessarily a zoning code requirement. It's a building
Building
code
code.
requirement. And the building official has said unless they follow specific things and it's limited to specific type of fill, which is basically dirt, and it's compacted, they would not allow construction on top of that.
Okay. On the concept plan, I believe it shows a building.
So that is outside the fill area,
It is.
the proposed fill area.
Okay, is that proposed building a by right building, or is that part of the contractor's storage yard?
It is part of the contractor's storage yard. You are correct.
Okay,
And it is outside the fill site.
got it. And one more clarification, if you could. The recommended conditions reference the concept plan
Yes.
dated April 30th, but the response letter says that the plan, there were some revisions made to include adjoining properties. Was that on the concept plan, or was that in another document? Because that was after
It was.
the April 30th, so.
It was.
Is there a revised concept plan after April 30th that incorporates any comments from the town or county staff?
There were, but the
Okay.
date still read April 30th.
So if
It may
those,
have a revision date, but the origination date was from April 30th. And if you'd like for that to be clarified.
oh, yeah,
Should the
absolutely.
planning
If-
commission.
Yeah, if
Yes.
it does move forward, then I think it would be important to
We'll
make sure
clarify
that the reference concept plan
Right.
incorporates the latest revision of
Yes.
that plan. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
Ms. Wright,
Yes.
could you return to the comments, the conditions slide, one more? In number 3, Under A, you're just talking about evergreen plantings. You're not talking about deciduous or anything else?
That's correct.
Evergreen only. Has there been any discussion about vegetation planted along 460 to perhaps enhance that welcoming view to our
They will be
area?
required to do a 75-foot buffer there as well. A 100-foot buffer would be required along residential areas.
Okay. But has there been any discussion of timing when that vegetation may be planted?
It would be, it
We
would have
talking-
to be done along with Phase 1, correct? Because that is
Okay.
identified as the Phase 1 location.
That's all I needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Ms. Wright?
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Wright.
Thank you.
And with the applicant or John?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. Appreciate your time this evening. My name is John Neal. I'm an engineer with Foresight Design Services here in Christiansburg. Want to touch on a few things. I appreciate Kim's presentation there. I think we don't really have any issues. I would like to request on those conditions that they suggest two different items. One, it says the days are Monday through Friday. We put in our application Monday through Friday with special occasions being Saturday. So they're certainly not going to be open every Saturday or anything like that. But when there's a need and a contractor has something, we'd certainly like to be able to utilize the site on Saturdays. And how exactly you memorialize that in writing, I'm not really sure. An occasional Saturday or maybe even a certain number of Saturdays per year or something like that to allow a little bit of flexibility to be able to serve the needs that might come up. So we'd like to make that request. And then also on the buffer yard, we understand the need for, we'd proposed a 20-foot wide type 4 buffer as was kind of dictated and is in the zoning ordinance. That's kind of what it spells out. We understand that maybe staff's recommending some additional buffers, and I understand that. That being said, a 100-foot buffer up between Village and Rainbow, where we are proposing the building, that would end up pushing the building back kind of closer to the fill area. So we'd like a modification of that as well, if at all possible. The type 4 buffer, Mr. Foster, I think it includes evergreen, deciduous, shrubs and things like that. So we could really stick to that as a pretty detailed and heavy buffer, but being a 20-foot wide buffer instead of the 100-foot there. So we'd like to request that as well. One of the things I guess I want to point out, a couple of comments is, we're certainly not anticipating this site to increase in the rate of traffic or the volume of traffic on a daily or monthly or weekly basis. It's just extending the life of the site for more years to come. This site was originally, I think we talked a little bit about this. This site was originally done by a different owner as an agricultural site, and so we did a fill plan for them that was more than the 15,000 cubic yards that you all have in your ordinance. And so that site continued on for quite a number of years. It started actually in 2017 was when the plan was approved. And so that site has been active since 2017. And one of the things I guess I'd really like to point out is Black Diamond bought the site in 2023, and there have been no complaints since that time. So I think that's pretty important. You can see, and obviously none of you all were out there before they've purchased it, but putting in the gate, putting in the cattle guards and things like that, they've really taken it seriously to make sure that they don't track mud or any debris or anything like that onto the existing streets that they will be accessing. So I want to point that out. And then I guess we have a fundamental disagreement with the desire for the town to do a core sample. They said a core sample. If you want to actually evaluate that road, it's going to be a lot more than one core sample. And even then, you're utilizing just the sample that you pick in the spot that you pick, and then extrapolating that over the entirety of that road. So the density of your samples dictates how accurate what you're doing you get. And then I guess the main thing I'd like to point out is that subdivision was subdivided in 1976, 77, and 78. Those are the plats that created those residential lots there, was in that time frame. So that subdivision has been active since about then. I'm sure some of those houses were not built for a few years. And so there's no way to assign the responsibility for the maintenance of the road. If the road might develop a pothole in the next couple of years, there's no way to say that thing has not been percolating for a long time to come. And I've been out there, I've seen the road, y'all have looked at the road. I think it's in pretty reasonable shape. The town has done several sections of the road that is actually further out towards Roanoke Street. They've improved sections of that on their own. So I just wanted to point that out. I do think, and we've been involved in a few of these cases where there's a property that is adjacent to a town property, and I think my understanding has been that the county attorney says there's no way to proffer anything or do anything in the town for a county property. So there's nothing we could proffer to you all to do on town property for a county SUP. And I think you can certainly get the county attorney to confirm that, but we've had relatively recent experience in the last several years with that. McLean Heights was one. And I think there was another project that we were not involved in on Peppers Ferry Road. That was another one. So I think that's something to think about, that really we're separate. We're utilizing public streets for this that are adequate. VDOT had no comments. And then the date on the drawing, Mr. Kroll, we'll certainly fix that and get that updated and make sure it's clarified and matched up to the documents. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
I got one, John.
Sir.
So there's quite a bit of elevation change on this property. Mm-hmm. What does it look like when we're finished? Surely you're not feeling 150, 180, 200 feet deep, are you? I mean, what does it look like when we're done?
So now the slope does this. The slope will still do that, but it will be up. We're able to go at a 3-to-1 slope without specific geotechnical testing and things like that. So that's what we'll utilize. And so the slope will just get higher all the way down the hill there.
So the contours stay about the same, but just higher.
Yeah. And then down at the very bottom, we'll be filling in that area. There's an old farm pond there that you see. Mm-hmm. We're working with DEQ and the Corps of Engineers on that to fill that in and shift that. So we'll fill up that whole area, which will then allow that slope that you see now to get higher.
Okay.
If that's a reasonable description.
Yeah, because we had one earlier that was like between two ridges, and you can
Right.
see that you fill in the ridges. But here we don't really have another ridge. It's
Yes,
just
sir.
one.
So the slope is here now, and we have the pond here. The slope will just go like this. So it will slide out towards the railroad tracks, basically is what it amounts to.
And so what's the limit? I mean, we're saying 2,000 or
About 2 million cubic yards, yes, sir.
so. Do you go 10 feet deep or 20 feet deep, or how is that determined?
Well, it'll be substantially deep out near where that pond is now. Mm-hmm. And then we'll go basically to zero when you get up to Village and Rainbow.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Neal,
Yes, sir.
would you say a word about the state of the art of compaction and whether there are various standards of compaction? And would you also say a word about the possible future use of this property as a park or agricultural use
Yes,
or
sir.
whatever when it's complete?
Yes, sir. And to Mr. Kroll's question as well. So this is inert fill. It's for the large majority of it is going to be dirt that is unsuitable to be used for compaction for a building. So the earth will still be compacted with machinery and things like that, but it will not be tested as the material is put in to a certain compaction density. And so that's what you have to have in much smaller increments and tested more often to be able to put a house or a building or something like that on. So none of this area will ever be suitable for construction of houses or a subdivision or anything like that. What it will be suitable for is continued pasture or grazing land or whatever, what have you like that.
So it would have topsoil when it's finally,
Yes, sir, absolutely. That will be part of the plan, is that it has to be topsoiled and seeded and stabilized to meet the county's requirements for stabilization to make sure that there's no excessive runoff.
thank you.
Mr. Neal,
Yes, sir.
I have a question and a comment. Given the nature of what's going to be hauled in there, how much does 15 cubic yards weigh? What's the weight of that truck going to be?
So there's not going to be 15 cubic yards on a truck. Typically, a truck is more like 10 yards.
Okay, I was just referencing what I read.
Sure. And give her, somewhere between 8 and 12 yards, depending on the truck. But we just say 10 typically on the average. A lot of the material that's going to come in is just regular old soil. It's probably going to weigh 120 pounds, 130 pounds a cubic foot. And there's 27 pounds I don't have my calculator, and my brain is not that good.
Doesn't matter.
So 130 pounds a cubic foot, roughly, maybe more like somewhere between 100 and 130, depending on the soil and what you have and those types of things.
But what about the weight of the rubble?
Same thing. Yeah, that's where I'm saying somewhere between 100 and 130 pounds.
So you're saying that the soil and the rubble weigh the same?
Well, on a per cubic foot basis, between 100 and 130, or 140 pounds, it's going to be wildly variable depending on the material that you're bringing in. If you bring in rocks and things like that, there's a lot of void spaces in there. It's not completely, uniform all the way through. So that's where you end up with that weight being lesser than what you might think.
So are you saying the predominant weight is going to be the truck itself, not the load it's carrying?
Yeah, most likely. I mean, I'd have to do some math here off the top of my head. You're putting me on the spot, but I can do that math and get back to you. But yeah, the weight of the truck is going to be substantial. It's typically not, the material that's coming in on 10 yards is not going to be outweighing the truck itself.
Okay. And the comment that I had related to your noise paragraph on page 14. It looks like you had two different writers, and it was quite interesting reading, particularly the comment about new and existing businesses will have the melody of their particular business. Somebody is auditioning for some other kind of writing.
That guilty as charged, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Neal, what is the typical gross weight of one of those dump trucks? What are they?
I do not know. Mr. Phipps may know. 58,000 pounds.
Thank you.
It also depends on the number of axles.
John, so we've got phase one and then phase two. You would start with phase one? Is that where you would start?
Yes, sir, that's the plan, right? So when Mr. Phipps took over the site, there were a few deficiencies of the site. And so he has worked pretty hard this last couple of years to get the stormwater management pond that was on site completely renovated and up to speed with what the requirements are. And so still is actively has fill there, but they'd like to move over because the next step in phase two would be to do the work with the pond and to expand that area. So they would start on phase one and fill that area first, yes, sir, and then move to phase two after phase one is complete.
So you'd be working in phase 2 and 1 at the same time then, are you saying, or?
Well, they're not going to completely close out phase 2, but certainly they're getting close to the limit of phase 2, which is actually active right now. So they want to move over to phase 1 while the work is going on to finish all the permitting and DEQ and Corps of Engineers and plans for phase 2.
I guess what I'm getting at is if phase 1 is 6.7 acres, and I'm assuming once you start on that and you're utilizing that area, then you would have to finish it, cap it over, get it seeded and stabilized before you'd start the next phase.
Yeah,
But the next phase is 60 acres or 36 acres, 36 acres.
Yes, sir.
Is
Yeah,
it possible to do that in phases to where, you know, you do 6 acres, then have to stabilize that, and then you do another 6 acres and stabilize that?
This site does not lend itself too well to that because everything is kind of draining to one spot as for phase 2. So that would be challenging to do some of that. You might be able to figure some of that out when you get down into the weeds and the details of doing it. But at this time, I wouldn't be able to say, hey, this specific area, really, you can finish it and then get that stabilized and then move to this area. But I think definitely phase 1, once it opens up and is active, they'll take it all the way to finish it and cap it and stabilize it. So it's not going to stay open for any more period of time than is necessary to do the fill.
John, could you clarify just a bit for me? The existing pond would rise as the fill continues? Or
no,
would
sir.
there be a separate storm retention facility?
There'll be a separate stormwater detention facility downstream of that pond before the railroad tracks. And so then the existing pond's going to end up going to get filled. And we show that somewhat on the master plan down at the very bottom. We label it there, and really that's just a existing hole right now that's downstream of the existing pond. But we'll work to make that the new stormwater management facility, and then that'll allow all that fill to come in.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
From my personal experience, for a few years now, where I live on Walton Road, dump trucks have traveled that road to that SUP rubble landfill.
You mean to
No, not this one.
Not
I'm
this one. Okay.
Talking about my personal experience where I
Okay.
live on Walton Road.
Okay.
From
I
a
just make-
previously approved SUP rubble landfill.
Uh-huh.
I have personally observed damage to that road from these trucks. And these trucks are coming and going all day long. And my house is not on that road, facing the road. I don't see the road in my daily life, but I travel it. My neighbors speak of it. So I feel a little uneasy with meeting these trucks on the road, seeing these trucks on the road. And I have some concerns about this project, having lived with this current project where I am. There was some cosmetic improvements on signage from VDOT or maybe from the county, I'm not really sure. But the residents of Walton Road are county residents, and, you know, they came here and expressed lots of concerns about that project. And that ultimately, that project was approved for a 40-year lifespan, too. And there's no looking back now, it's ongoing. So I would like for you to speak a little more about it, or even have an opportunity to get more information about the concerns the town of Christiansburg expressed on the roads and the impact on that traffic on those streets, because I know you basically said you're not required to. I don't feel like we should just ignore their request from their engineering department. I mean, even though it's not a requirement, I still feel like that concern was expressed. I know they just got it yesterday, hadn't had time to really vet it, to respond to it, but I think now that that's been raised and it's here in our information, I think we need to have that piece of this looked at closer.
So, if I may share something with you. Pass around my phone if you don't mind. So today I went up to Village Lane. And this has nothing to do with the condition of the road. Feel free to pass that on around and I'll pick it up over there. But this is a dump truck coming out of the site and I was coming up the hill on Village.
I see that it does have
So-
plenty of passing room.
Yeah,
That's
that's
not
what,
that-
that's all I
not
wanted
the
to
biggest
illustrate.
issue.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dust coming off of it too. I mean, this project probably would take off some of the impact on Walton Road, which would benefit the residents of where I live, but I still feel like needing to speak up on these concerns because it's a daily thing I live with and now that I'm retired, I see it more because I'm there more. That's all, that's my concern, and I just wanted to make a note of it.
And that has nothing to do with the condition of the road, but I just wanted to illustrate how wide Village is and the curve going down and all the way out. I don't think there are any concerns whatsoever. There shouldn't be any concerns whatsoever with the geometry and meeting trucks on that road or anything like that for this project.
John, does the town require these core samples and so forth for other developments? I know I've done some work in that town. They've never required me to do core samples.
No, sir, not that I'm aware of. We've not ever had to do any projects we've done in town. We do for VDOT, when we're doing a VDOT subdivision street, so a subdivision that we do in the county, they do what's called CBR tests, and they're every couple 100 feet. And you take those tests and you get the results, and then you do a pavement design. So in other words, how much stone and how much pavement you have. You do that design for the subdivision street. But that's a brand new street in a brand new area that you're working in where you've graded in. Something like an existing street, I've never seen that. I will point out also, I should have shown you the second picture, but so I went out to Walnut Creek today. That's a subdivision we did in 2005, I think was when it was first approved. I think that's about right. And the first houses that were done there in 2005 were up at the street at Houchins Road. And so there was a bunch of single family, and then we did the one little cul-de-sac this way, and then we continued on, and now we're all the way at the back of the subdivision. And I apologize, I do have to show you this picture because I think it illustrates a point as well. And there's probably some pictures of my dog on here, so this is. So what you're gonna see here, this is all the way in the back of the Walnut Creek subdivision, and so in 2005, when those first houses were built, or probably 2006, those first houses were built, and they were on that subdivision street. There were CBR tests done for that subdivision street. It was designed as a subdivision street. I'm pretty sure the streets on Village were never designed for anything. They were built. They were not designed. But we designed the subdivision streets for Walnut Creek. And over the course of the last 20 years now, there has been 150 houses constructed in there. And probably all of them had a concrete truck delivering concrete, which weighs a whole lot more than our dump truck dropping off inert fill. They had tractor trailers bringing in trusses, tractor trailers bringing in bunks of 2x4s, shingles, all those types of things. So there has been active construction traffic on that road for the last 20 years, maybe 19. And there was no special design done for the activity that has taken place the last 20 years there. And so I, like I said, I respectfully disagree that number one, that there's any test that we could do that then we could decide that these dump trucks are either acceptable or unacceptable for the street, because that street has been there for 1980 to 45 years. There's no test that we could do that would say it's acceptable, and then how to define how much is Rick's responsibility if that road does need to be repaved or a pothole fixed or anything like that. And I don't even know how you'd even generate a mechanism to figure that out 7 years from now or 12 years from now when the town decides that the street needs to be repaved. Sorry, I'll get my phone.
Don, did you all, is there any other feasible access besides Village Lane? I know it would involve doing some additional construction work, but all of the aerial, and I haven't studied beyond what's been shown on the aerial mapping, but
no,
did you all
sir.
look at that? Is that really the only option, is to cut through those existing down roads?
Yes, sir. There is no other route.
Any further questions?
Oh, yes, sorry, Kim mentioned, I think you had a concern from an adjacent property owner, thought maybe there'd been some fill, over their property line. That was probably 6 or 7 years ago, I would guess, when that was done that. And when we were out, doing some of the, additional topo and surveying, we found that out back then. I think it was probably 5 or 6 years ago. And we notified the owner at that time about it. They were going to talk to the owner. I don't know if they solved that or not, but Rick today reached out to the lady, Compton. I think it was Compton. Is it Compton? Reached out and talked with them, and they're going to meet next week. So he's going to make sure that if that was not pulled back from the previous owner, he's going to pull it back, make sure it gets there, and they'll make sure they get their property line defined. And he had a conversation with her today, and she was very nice, and so they're planning on taking care of that.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Mr.
you
Dale.
all.
At this time, we'll open up the floor. Well, excuse me. How about the owner? Did the owner want to speak before?
Yeah, I'll be happy to. I can, I guess I'll state my name.
Your name and address, please.
My name's Rick Phipps. I'm the owner of Black Diamond Resources and R.L. Phipps Construction. Address, is that what you, or what'd you say?
Just your address, your home address.
My home address is 6137 Alum Ridge Road, Reiner, Virginia. A couple clarifications that I could probably offer on, I think you had a concern with the weight of the dump trucks. One key point we need to realize is the dump trucks are governed by state law and they have to be legal. So Virginia bridge law only allows us to put so much weight on that dump truck legally. And as an owner of multiple dump trucks, we don't want to overweight them. So dump trucks in nature are designed to spread that weight out over multiple axles. So it's not like we're loading it for something that wouldn't be legal to drive down your normal road or normal driveway. So as far as Miss Compton's complaint, I found out about it through the email chain this afternoon and called her. Her real concern is that we don't really know where that property line is. We currently have GPS control set up on the project, so I told her we would meet at her earliest convenience and walk the line, mark it clearly to where she was 100% comfortable with those limits. And if something did get over, which I'm 99% positive it's not, we will address that with her. So also, I noticed that dust has been a common topic and concern. Dust is regulated through erosion sediment controls just like anything else. We get inspected under our permits by the county personnel biweekly. And dust is something that when you wet it, it comes back. So during the summer months, we have water trucks there and we can definitely help with that. The positive thing about the design that we're proposing, we'll move that operation farther down in the bottom for a longer period of time. And we have proposed, met with the town of Christiansburg to actually extend at my cost asphalt through that area that was in both of those pictures to get us well within our limits. And the dust up there along the residential areas wouldn't really be as much of an issue, so.
Well, thank you, Mr. Phipps.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll open up the floor for public address. Anyone that would like to approach and discuss this topic? If you'd like to come forward, please, you can give us your name and address. And you got 3 minutes.
My name is Alex Hazuri, 945 Pollard Road, Christiansburg. The site in concern is basically of concern to us in the sense that we don't know what's going to happen to this pond, the existing pond. The runoff, we don't know what kind of soil, whether the soil is going to be tested periodically or not. We have no idea. If the soil is polluted and we have runoff, we have a creek going in the middle of through the middle of the property. And there are animals, neighbors that have animals, they use that water from the creek. So we're concerned about pollution. We would like to know if there's going to be periodical testing of the soil, what is going to happen to the pond, and do we have access to the property, to the site, to look at it, to see what's going on? Will we be allowed to visit the site?
Are you asking a question?
Yeah, I'm asking a question to the owner.
This is your time to speak, please.
I beg your pardon?
I said, this is your time to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, please go forward.
Well, that is my concern. I'm speaking, expressing my concern about the project, how it's going to impact that pond. Okay? And in the short term and the long term. So we would like to know if the soil is going to be tested. Would like to see the reports of those tests. And we would just like to be informed about what's going on.
Okay.
Okay. So who would we contact in that regard?
So any testing would be done through Department of Environmental Services, DEQ. That report would go to that department.
Okay.
Once it starts. As far as access to the site, it's a private site, so we can't offer you access. You would have to arrange that with the property owner if
Okay.
you wanted access to the site.
Okay. Is the county concerned, is the board of directors, supervisors concerned about the pollution to the creek, to the water body?
So this will go to the Board of Supervisors for their review on July 14th.
Okay. All right. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. If anyone else would like to come forward, now is your time. Seeing none, we will close the public address portion and talk amongst the commission for action and/or further review. If I may ask staff, staff didn't make a recommendation. Was it only because of the town of Christiansburg request that you didn't feel like was?
So that information was received the same evening that packet was due to go out. So our analysis was completed at that time. We did not make recommendation, and we are standing by that recommendation as
Okay.
it is at the moment.
I'm a little concerned about the town. The town's request. It's almost like they're wanting adjacent landowner to guarantee their roads if they're substandard. But if they're substandard, it's the town's responsibility, not someone else. The town streets are supposed to be made for traffic. And I don't think they make different roads or you see what I'm saying? It's this town street that's been that's owned by the town and maintained by the town, and if it's substandard, then it would be the town's responsibility, not an adjacent owner. It would be hard, and it would be hard to put a condition that you're ensuring that,
I don't think we could. So,
because it's a town street, you don't know if it was the town's dump truck that came through that tore up the road. You know what I'm saying? You can't ensure that the road is.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, please.
I think we have a number of unanswered questions. And we have a staff recommendation of no recommendation. And Ms. Wright's hanging out there waiting for some information from the county attorney. And I may be out of sequence here, but I'd like to move that we defer this to the July 16th meeting. That messes up the Board of Supervisors schedule. Okay. So I'll make that as a formal motion.
I'll second.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second. We'll take a roll call vote here in a second. Some of the information that we're wanting, this buffer, there was some questions about the buffer, 20-foot buffer versus 100-foot buffer. We'd like to have a little bit more information on that. The Saturday operation, I'm okay with some Saturdays. I don't know if we talk with Marty, find out if we do a total number per year or something to that effect.
I will say traditionally in the past, we have not limited it to a certain number of Saturdays per year. From a zoning code enforcement perspective, I would think that might be a small nightmare
Okay.
in order to track and maintain. I mean, how do you know if they were open on this Saturday and not this one? So I think it would have to be something that was enforceable at that point.
I would think you just make the condition language match up with the application, and that should solve that problem.
What is the issue with it operating on Saturday?
Well, the condition that was recommended was just operation on Monday through Friday.
So
And
the
I-
application did not specify Saturday at all.
Oh, I understand, but I'm saying if we're trying to come up with a way to enforce some limit on the number of Saturdays, I don't see the point in doing that. What's the difference between a truck coming in or 20 trucks coming in on Thursday versus Saturday? So if it's going to be open on any Saturday, my opinion is why not restrict
Understand.
that? If you're going to have it restricted to no operation on Sunday, that's very clear. But to limit the number of Saturdays that it can operate seems arbitrary to me.
Okay.
Request.
Well, I understand that.
So they are the
but
ones that
it creates
suggested
an
that.
issue with, I
Right.
think they were trying to accommodate a way for us to say yes. Yeah, I may be speaking for you, John, but it seems like even though that's a little contrary to their request, I think imposing a condition like that would put an unreasonable burden on staff. and not accomplish anything for the betterment of the community. And also, I guess back to the whole traffic and trucks and all that, I'm not a traffic engineer, so I do have limited knowledge in that area, but it seems to me that if a road, all roads are not the same. If a road is designed for residential use, it's designed to a certain standard. If it's used as a collector road or some higher level of intensity, it's designed to a different standard than a residential subdivision or some other type of defined use. What we're doing is expanding, if this gets approved, the long-term use as an industrial type use where we're going to have a lot of heavy trucks coming in and out of there, and we're not necessarily restricting how many. If there's a lot of construction going on, I would imagine that they're going to try to accommodate as much of that 2 million cubic yards as they possibly can. So I understand the idea of trying to get approval to accommodate a longer length of time, but it's going to fluctuate with the economy and the level of construction activity. Also, the fact that it's not dedicated to just their internal use, that it is a third party and that it is essentially a commercial operation. So I think that in and of itself puts it in a little bit of a different category than general construction traffic going to point A to point B, because this is a defined location where traffic is going to be a destination. So I do have concerns about the amount of truck traffic. I absolutely agree you're not going to be able to put any kind of condition that allocates responsibility for repair. But I do understand Meredith's comment in that if you can do CBR testing for design of a road to accommodate a proposed use, why could you not do CBR testing based and an analysis on the current pavement section, at least a statistically representative number of samples, in order to reverse engineer what's currently there and calculate what type of traffic based on today's standards that road is able to accommodate. Now, from my perspective, that information needs to be something that we would want to hear the conclusion before we acted on this and approved it, unless we could do something, an approval subject to that being acceptable to the town. But I don't know if that's even possible. So I know that's a windy comment, and I apologize for that, but.
Well, let's flesh it out a little bit more, though. But what if a sample was taken and someone determined that it wasn't adequate? Then at that point,
Then why would you approve a future use that allows inadequate?
but it would be considered inadequate for an assumed number of trips and you know, like, you know what I'm saying? It might only be the 15 trucks a month for the next 5 years. And you know what I'm saying? You would have to assume that it's going to be a certain volume or.
Correct.
I think we're
But
in
I
a-
would assume that right now it's limited to their own use. If they open it up to commercial third parties to pay to bring material there.
Yeah.
We've had other contractors that have submitted applications because this is a real need.
It's a real
And that's why I'm definitely conflicted, because I recognize the need. And I support having these types of facilities in the county because it does meet an essential need to promote construction and economic development in the community, but we also do need to be careful that the infrastructure is in place so we're not creating a problem by solving another problem. So I'm glad that Mr. Foster made the motion to defer this action to a subsequent meeting, and I personally would like to hear more information about, with all due respect to the engineers representing the applicant, I think there's more information, more definitive information and insight we could get on the suitability of the existing roadway infrastructure for this proposed use.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with what Mr. Kroll has not so pithily expressed just now.
I don't know what that word means, Mr.
Okay.
Foster. Let me
It
Google
wa-
that.
It wasn't a short answer. We're in a curious situation where our consideration legally begins at the mailbox at the top of the hill. But the concern is that the approval of that creates a potential problem for the town of Christiansburg. And I kind of feel even more strongly than I did a few minutes ago, we've got to get the lawyers together for lunch somewhere and get them to hammer this something out, because this is probably not going to be the last time it happens as the area grows and we surround Blacksburg and Christiansburg. That there are going to be pass-through situations that we've got to think about.
And I will also note that the county engineer's comment was not about future maintenance, it's about the adequacy of the pavement today to support the proposed use, not who's going to pay for fixing it down the road. So I don't think that's within our purview, and that kind of helps alleviate that issue. But I think making sure that we're not approving something that's going to be a detriment to the road system when the town has raised that as an issue, I think that we need to explore that specifically a little further.
Okay. Is there any other items that we want staff to kind of key in on as we're preparing for next meeting?
Before we go that far, I'd like to say, excuse me, whether or not core samples are the answer or whether they can be determined to be the answer, I think we need to be good neighbors with the town of Christiansburg and at least extend the courtesy of investigating their request.
I understand. Any other items? Okay, so we have a motion and a second to defer this to the July 14th meeting. Excuse me?
16th.
Is it 16th? Excuse me, I stand corrected, 16th. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed likewise? Was a voice vote okay? Was that okay? Okay. Okay, so we will hash this out again next month. And at this time, we have a public address that someone can speak. Oh, I'm sorry.
We have a
We're gonna do the
second
SUP for the-
request.
For
Yes,
the
we
second
do.
request. Okay, I'm sorry.
A lot of the same information. The summary of this request is for a contractor's storage yard for RL Phipps Construction. Proposed hours again are operation are 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Monday through Friday. The contractor's storage yard will not be open to the public. There is a shop building planned for the future, the size unknown, but as noted before, it is on an area that is not part of the field site. The equipment stored on site will typically leave the site and remain on the active job site, but equipment will return for service, maintenance, and storage occasionally. A definition for a contractor's storage yard is an area used for the storage of equipment and/or materials used for providing construction-related contracting services, including but not limited to flooring, heating, plumbing, roofing, landscaping, and excavation. This is the same concept plan, but if you will see down in the bottom right-hand corner, the area identified as the contractor's storage yard and the proposed building. They would use the same site access as for the Phase 2 part of the proposed landfill and the gated entryway to the site. Here, however, is a picture of Rainbow Street, the end of Rainbow Street, which is where I am standing when I took the photo, and it is prevented to be used by vehicles using those concrete barriers. And then this is taken from within the site, looking out towards Rainbow Street, and you can see the residential area that's there. Here's drone footage in this area right here, which is the gravelled area of the site where the excavation equipment is parked. That is the proposed contractor storage yard site. So you see it from two different perspectives in both of these photos. And then on the right photo, you can see the access coming. The gate is about where those trees are right there. Traffic impacts, the site will be accessed from Village Lane, accessing the same route as our previous request. But the applicant estimates 0 to 10 trips per day. The town of Christiansburg, again, has previous records and investigated issues related to mud and rock, but none since the new owner has taken possession of the property. Same access route, goes through business, industrial, and multifamily zoned areas, and VDOT has no comments for this use. The same environmental impacts have been identified, but stormwater management will be thoroughly reviewed during the site plan process for this part, and all areas designated as conserved open space should still remain protected and undisturbed. Saturday hours were not indicated, but it would result in an increased impacts for residents. Multi-family residential dwellings are located immediately to the proposed contractor storage yard site. And the town did not indicate any noise complaints have been received from the existing operation. A buffer would be required to be installed at the residential areas to mitigate noise impacts anticipated to come from the site. And this site would be different, that it would utilize safety and security lighting, but it would be required to meet dark sky friendly standards. And then again, the locked gate prohibits vehicular access to the site after hours. Same comprehensive plan goals are identified here. The proposed use would provide a viable use for an existing vacant lot and would support construction activities throughout the county. There are limited impacts on surrounding properties, no additional burden on existing infrastructure. Fencing and/or landscape buffer would be required from adjacent properties. Staff does recommend approval of this special use permit request to allow a contractor storage yard at the site with the following conditions. Contractor storage yard site shall be developed in general conformance with the submitted concept sketch, and we'll update that date. A site plan addressing zoning conformance with landscaping, screening, parking, and other requirements shall be approved prior to issuance of any county permits. Hours of operations shall not exceed 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. The site shall be closed on Saturday and Sunday. Mr. Neal may have some more comments about this one as well. Any exterior lighting installed on the property shall be designed to prevent glare onto adjacent properties and comply with dark sky friendly standards. The contractor's storage yard shall not be open to the public and shall create no exterior impacts, including noise, vibration, glare, odors, or electrical interference. Equipment and vehicles stored on the property shall be in good working condition at all times, and any outdoor storage shall be screened from view from adjacent properties with opaque fencing or evergreen trees. All adjoining property owners received the same notice for both requests. Signs were placed for both requests, legal ads. Staff did receive no concern regarding this use of the property, but additional comments may be received during the public hearing. And then I will take any questions. And again, Mr. Neal is available if you have any more.
That's right. How far is the residence there at the top of the hill from where this potential structure is going to be, or the existing structure?
I do not have a measurement on that, but I do have that picture that, that shows the,
There you go. One on the right. Couple 100 feet. And then there would be a 100-foot buffer.
the 100-foot buffer was recommended for the fill site. This would not be part of the fill site,
Okay.
so this buffer would be different.
What would this one be?
Would this one be 40?
I can't remember if it's a 20 or a 40-foot buffer.
I apologize, I should know that.
The setback for the structure itself would be 40 feet, for sure, but I can take a look and get back to you on that.
Ms. Wright, in a related question, is there no limit to the square footage of this building?
The only limit would be, as prescribed by the standards for the A1 district about lot coverage.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And does this contract storage cover the whole 60-acre parcel or just?
The special use permit would be good for the whole property, but per the concept sketch, they have identified this area as this,
Just where
Area
the
right
little
here.
round circles are, the little?
Yes.
Look like gravel?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And by having the condition that ties it back to the concept sketch, they couldn't move that building, let's say, to the other side, or it would be considered not in substantial conformance.
Okay.
But it could be expanded. Is that so?
They didn't give us a size on the building. Are you talking about the contractor storage yard area could be expanded, or this, or the structure itself?
The building itself.
They haven't proposed a size yet.
But we wouldn't see that again until the site plan.
Correct.
Correct. It would not come back before this board as long as it was contained within this area that they have defined as being used.
But aside from the setback requirements, it could cover the entire area,
Potentially.
theoretically
Potentially, yes.
and potentially. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are you, would you like to see a size limitation as a condition?
So
Look,
on that,
it- Go ahead.
sorry, Pam, go ahead, you go first.
I was just gonna say, it looks like that is on the corner and it's closest to the properties on Rainbow Street, correct?
It was correct.
This week in the paper, there was a foreclosure for that property on Rainbow Street. That's what caught my attention, 500 Rainbow Street, from someone that bought it back in 2020, and now they're foreclosing on it. So I don't know if it's related or not, but it seems too coincidental, so I just wanted to clarify that was Rainbow.
It is Rainbow.
That's interesting. I wanted to ask, so I'm trying to determine the little circles, right, in the drawing that we're looking at, like the buffer. I'm looking at the buffer. There's a buffer, and then there's more circles along there. So those are people's homes, correct? On that backside, residents.
Right here.
Yep. And the circled area is where equipment could park,
Correct.
correct?
That is correct.
So potentially, could we, I don't know, can we say, hey, the buffer where the homes are, increase that, not have those bubbles along that straight line, and keep it to the larger area? I don't know how else to say that, you know?
It starts going down, the hill. See, they've kind of designated the flat area where they could build. It starts dropping
I'm
off.
not saying change the building. I'm just saying get rid of that line of bubbles.
That's the
Ms.
access
Hopkins.
road, I think.
So are you asking
No,
for an
no,
increased buffer?
What
Ms.
bubbles are we
Hopkins.
talking about?
Right here, right across where it goes.
Are you talking about here?
Yep. To remove that area, the equipment can't park right there behind people's homes.
Isn't that the access road?
That's the access
That's the access road to get to the building.
Okay, well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Because that is the road
is,
part,
it
okay.
is.
But it looks like it's the same designation as what they're defining the storage lot. I think the
It
concept
does.
plan needs to better define the storage lot
Okay,
Thank you.
and the building.
okay.
maybe not a size restriction, but at least a general magnitude of what's being proposed, so that we know if it's in general conformance with what's being approved.
Yeah.
So the ordinance does call for a type 3 buffer in that area, which would only be, that would be considered the front. And so that would be 15 feet in width. And then there's a certain number of trees, and then there is the opaque requirement for fencing. We do allow them to substitute evergreens if they don't do the opaque fencing. A type 4 buffer, which could be added as a condition, because this is a special use permit. A type 4 buffer, the front is 20 feet in width. And likewise, it would still require a structural screen.
Can we ask for both?
Yes. As a
Fence.
condition.
Yeah, a fence and evergreen, okay?
Can you go back to that picture with the White House in it? Because I think that shows what's there now. I don't think there's anything. There's just a few trees there now. Is this what you're talking about right through here, Andrea? Okay. So you're saying opaque fencing or evergreens through here? And/or.
Yeah, it seems like this kind of creates just graphically the way the concept plan shows the Phase 2 area, and then overlaid by a graphical depiction of in the label showing the storage lot. But I think to define exactly if the buffering is different, buffer requirement is different under a special use permit for the rubble fill versus the storage lot, that needs to be clear where each one of those is going to apply, so that, I mean, even though they're not necessarily filling in that corner, it appears that some of that is also within the designated Phase 2 fill area, the way it's currently shown on the concept plan.
Okay.
Could the square footage of that storage building be a condition, and/or could the owner proffer voluntarily a certain size?
So since this is a special use permit, it would not be a proffer, but you could add a condition limiting the size of the building, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I want to ask a question of Mr. Neal that he can answer when he comes up.
Do you have any more questions for me?
Well, no,
Okay.
he's not listening anyway. I'll just wait until he comes up.
Okay, so the applicant's going, okay, applicant.
Sorry, was that all right?
Yes,
Mr.
yeah,
Neal?
it's time. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. Thank you for your time. John Neal, Foresight Design, Christiansburg, Virginia. Certainly appreciate Kim's comments. We can further define and clarify for you the storage area and the buffer yards related to the storage area and to the fill site. We're happy to do that. We'll put that together. I think it makes sense, even though we would like to have moved forward with both of them tonight. I think it probably makes sense to keep them on the same track. And so we'd certainly, I think, request to kind of keep this in line with the fill site. But I will say, Mr. Miller, with respect to the building, that's really a future building. And so it's kind of hard to decide. No sooner than we say, hey, we're going to do a 50 by 100 building, then it'll need to be a 52 by 110 building, or, And so we'd certainly like the opportunity to, when we come back with the storage lot, and maybe we say up to 80% of the storage lot, or some kind of definition like that to kind of at least provide some boundaries to it. And we understand the need to buffer the residential areas there. I think in talking with Rick there just now, I think we can increase that buffer yard a little bit there for the contractor storage yard, and we'll expand a little bit off to one side to try to make sure that those folks are buffered as best we can.
And for those of us like myself that can't see, would we take this storage lot off of the master plan maybe and
Yeah,
separate
we can
page
do
so
that. Yeah.
we can actually see exactly where we're.
And an idea of the buffer on Rainbow, of what your concept would be for that.
Sure,
Would be
we can
good.
do that. Yep.
Mr. Neal,
Yes, sir.
when you were here earlier on the other application, you talked about the inability to build structures on the fill area. Is it possible to park equipment on it?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Would it be possible to move your equipment parking to the north side of whatever structure is built in the future so that it's on the other side of the building from the residences?
Yes, sir. That's what I was talking with Rick about, is we'll kind of have the building there. But then we will definitely have some storage to the side of it along that contour. Because we can take the storing of the equipment so far, but then when we get onto the actual slope, certainly not really feasible there. But we will be able to create a pad behind the building and to the side of the building, to the left of the drawing as you're looking at it there. But then that would also have the buffer yard along and in between Rainbow and Village.
Any further? Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chair, do we need,
I think we'll still go forward with the public hearing.
We have to.
sorry, yeah.
Anyone else would like to speak? I've opened the floor up for public hearing on this conditional use permit. If anyone would like to speak, please come forward. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. We'll open up public address for anyone.
We need a motion.
I'm trying to get out of here.
I'll move that we defer this item until the July 16th meeting.
Second.
We got a motion in multiple seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those likewise, or those opposed likewise. The motion carries unanimous. For the third time, I'm going to open up for public address. Seeing none, we will close the public address and move straight to liaison reports, which Mr. Todd King is up first.
I don't have no report, but I have been talking to some citizens, and they want me to run something past the planning commission and Bree. When people come in and get a special use permit, if it's on the end of their cul-de-sac, and some people is on this end, maybe they don't go down to the end of the cul-de-sac to see that they have a special public hearing on SUP.
Right.
Is there any way that we could, maybe just for that direct road, maybe mail each neighbor something saying, you know, we got a SUP coming up in your neighborhood or something?
We already do adjacent.
So we do adjacent, if it would touch the property that is the subject of the request. So state code says you have to notify anyone adjoining if it would touch the property, regardless of roads, rivers, lakes, etc. So we do that. Occasionally, we will extend it if there's a question of whether it touches or if it just makes sense. We haven't taken it to the end of the cul-de-sac, but I'm definitely willing to talk to Marty and seeing, I want to make sure I don't agree to something that has some other
Well, I just
ramifications to it that we're
Right.
not aware of. But I don't, off the top of my head, I don't see an issue, other than we would do it and then we would be on another road that's maybe not a dead-end road, but they're like, hey, well, we know you went 10 properties beyond the last one. Why didn't you go 10 properties beyond this one? So I want to talk to Marty about that before I agree to anything.
What they
But
was
yes, we
talking-
can look at it.
What they was talking about, there's a SUP had come through, and the property was on the end of the cul-de-sac with the neighbors that lived on this end.
Didn't get the notice. So the
Didn't
ones
get
at
to
the
notice.
front.
Yeah.
Got
So
it.
now they got a bunch of vehicles running up and down there. If you're looking at it, I'd appreciate it.
I will look into that.
Thank you.
Okay.
And there might even be another way, even if we don't provide them with a mailed notice, maybe we could put one of the signs at the end of that road
End of that road, yeah,
to
something like that.
direct them. That might be a possibility too. So I will talk to county administration and the county attorney, and we will come up with a solution.
All right, thank you.
How about that?
Blacksburg Planning Commission, Ms. Andre?
So Blacksburg, it's actually council, but I skipped on to that part because it's important. They have asked for Virginia Tech to pause admissions. I know. But this all came about because of the development that got approved on Cambridge Street, the 8-story building that will be apartments. That convenient, well, I'm on recording. So it's on apartments that were approved to be built within the town of Blacksburg. So the town of Blacksburg has asked Virginia Tech to please pause on increasing admissions and to have discussions with the town before future planning of facilities and buildings would occur.
Even though they approved it.
Well, they approved that one. But there is more to that story, and we can talk later. So, but yeah, that's what's going on in the town of Blacksburg.
Thank you, ma'am. Christiansburg Planning Commission, and I spoke with Trey. I don't know that I don't know that they've had a meeting. Radford Planning Commission, Pam?
Oh, their meeting is on Monday, the 16th, so I'll have a report after that.
Okay. And Mr. Miller with Tourism Council.
No meeting, no report. We do have a new director, and I look forward to working.
And Mr. Workman, Parks and Rec.
We'll meet tomorrow.
I've read that. And Planning Director's report.
Yes, I have a few different things. So one, I think it's important to announce the Radford City Council has appointed a new city manager. So Mr. Todd Meredith from Parisburg has been hired. So we're really excited for our neighbors there in Radford. A former county administrator of ours that you may know by the name of Craig Meadows had been serving as interim. So he helped select Mr. Meredith, and I think everyone is really excited to have him on board. County related, so we had Montgomery Matters here 2 weeks ago, a week ago. It all blurs together. We had a meeting here. We had several folks attend. I think we were over 20 in attendance. The exciting thing we got out of that was there were approximately 10 people, so almost half, that had never attended a Montgomery Matters or comp planning event before. And so we were very excited about that because that means we're reaching new people and we're getting more people involved, and that's always a good thing. We do have a lot of Montgomery Matters items coming up for you. June 26th, we will be in Price's Fork at the Price's Fork Elementary School from 5 to 7:30 p.m., holding our first village meeting. Postcards have went out, and I actually have a favor to ask of you. I have some extra postcards, and I also have some flyers, and I thought I might get you and Mr. Workman to distribute some of them there in the Price's Fork area, maybe at North Star Church, and then some of the places you frequent as well, just to help us get the word out. So, yes, that will be in 2 short weeks. We will be in Price's Fork. And then July 10th, we are going to visit what Mr. Miller calls the big city of Reiner. and we will be there from 5 to 7:30 p.m. as well. Those postcards will be going out next week or the week after. I'm not positive on that timeline. July 31st, we will be at Bellevue. We'll be at Bellevue Elementary School. In Reiner, we are going to be at Auburn Middle School. Sorry, I meant to say that. Thank you. August the 7th, we will be in Elliston at the Elliston Elementary School. So, in the city of Elliston, that is correct. We will be there to take a look at the Elliston Lafayette Village Plan. So if you notice, those are kind of close together and fast and furious, but there was a reason. We wanted to try to get out to each one of those villages, one, as quick as possible so we can start writing the plans, but two, we also wanted to be able to utilize the schools before schools were actually in session. It's a little harder to schedule those once you have kids in the building and activities for school. So we are very thankful to the Montgomery County Public Schools for letting us use their facilities. We appreciate that. They have been wonderful to work with. August 21st, we will be in Shawsville, and there we will be at the Meadowbrook Center. And then...
Bree, do you mind telling us what happened at these meetings?
So these are open house meetings. We are sending postcards to members in each one of these village areas and inviting them to come out. We will have activities similar to our open house events that we have here. They will be a little more, I don't want to say catered to the village, but they'll be a little more relatable to the village than just the full-on comprehensive plan. So they will be more village specific. We are actually going to ask one big question of probably each village, and that's, do you consider yourself a village? And if not, what do you consider your community? Because we've heard from a couple of folks, well, we really don't think we're a village. And so, well, if you don't think you're a village, what are you? And so we're trying to get some of that input back from those citizens. We're going to be looking at the maps, where growth is available, what type of growth. Are we looking at new growth in these areas, or are we looking at redevelopment and infill based on what's available? We're going to be looking at available lands in those areas. And then what do you want it to look like when it gets here? If you have growth, what should it look like? What should densities be? What should, even down to where should parking be? In the past, it should be in the rear, not fronting the major roads, and we'll see if that still sticks. So a variety of questions will be asked of each village. The only village that is not on here is Plum Creek yet, because we are still waiting to confirm a location on that one. We are looking at September 4th. For that meeting. We just want to make sure that we have a location secured before we make that announcement. So once again, it is going to be a busy, busy summer for planning, and we'll be hitting our major villages. Other news, Sarah Cahoon has started in our department as GIS analyst. She has returned to work for over a full week now. So I think she might still like us, and she's not going to run away, so that's always a good thing. More exciting news, Shelley Caldwell attempted her certified zoning officials exams, and she passed those yesterday and is considered a CZO. She stayed in Charlottesville, which is why Amanda's with us this evening, to take the management course so she can attempt her CZA. And speaking of CZA, Laura Rogers attempted her CZA on Monday, and she passed all 3 courses. And she had the second highest score ever on one of the exams. So we are very proud of her. We have a new CZO, a new CZA, and that's very exciting. And I believe we had on here that we were meeting on July 9th. Since we have the village meeting on July 10th, we were actually going to discuss canceling that. So I am really glad Mr. Foster channeled my brain and said July 16th when he was talking about his deferrals, because I think that works perfectly.
You here for 16th? I'm on vacation.
Are you really? Let me rethink the 16th here.
Okay, do we, anyone else missing on the 16th of July?
I don't know if channeling your brain is how to take that.
You're out the 16th? Okay. What about the 9th?
I'm out the 9th, but
You're out the 9th. Are you all good? So we just have one out the 9th? Okay. Does the 9th work for you, Mr. Neal? It does. Okay, so we will be here the day after my birthday on July 9th.
July 9th.
And we will adjust them in planning director's report is how we will do that. We will reference back that we may not have had a quorum on the 16th, so we adjusted that meeting to July 9th and confirmed with the applicant that it was feasible. I think that's all I have.
Would you please, in writing, if you will, express our appreciation, our thanks, and our congratulations to each of the staff members?
Yes, absolutely.
I think
I'll do that.
if we all agree on that, which I trust we do.
Anything else? It's back to you, Mr.
All
Rice.
right, well, I think that, is there anything else? If none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. And motion second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, too bad.
Leave anyway.